Mambition. So Hallie's like, what have I done? What have I agreed to? Ambition. Welcome back, guys. It's Tiffany. And of course, I'm always bringing good energy. I've got my coffee here, so don't worry. I'm fueled by caffeine and life and my ambition. So, yeah, guys, welcome back. Today, I've got a fantastic guest for you guys. It's Suhali Vyas. Welcome, Suhali, to my ambition.
Thank you so much, Tiffany. I'm so glad I'm here.
Yeah, me too. And where are you recording from? Because I like to tell people that we're going international, honey boo boo.
Okay, I am currently in Goa, southern
Ooh.
part of Goa from India. It's a
Yeah.
beachside location. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I can imagine. I'd love to go to India one day. It's a bit far in terms of flying with the kids, but I think as they get older, it's definitely a place would like to visit. So, and I was also saying, guys, actually to Sahali, when we were chatting, that I think the universe has a sense of humor because I just finished recording this week an episode about my Nigerian dad, how I was raised, and what I was doing differently for my children. When you actually, I felt like you landed into my world on LinkedIn. An engineer turned early childhood development expert who wants to change the conversation about how we parent in the first 5 years. Now, tell us a bit more about your background. I know you come from product and customer experience, right?
Yeah. So I graduated from IIT Kharagpur in 2015, and then I spent about 10 years with Indian tech startups, and it was a phenomenal learning experience. I worked primarily in product management and consumer experience strategy. My longest tenure was with PhonePe. It is the payment leader in India now, and I joined as I think I was a very early member of that team, and there I got an opportunity of building systems, right, and developing products from scratch. And I ran their NPS program also. So the experience helped me think in terms of consumers and their needs and the systems that serve them. Okay, and I personally wanted to change the experience that children have with education itself. All right. So that is where I started exploring education and teaching a few kids and understanding, how can we change that experience for them. And that's where the journey began. And I kept on digging until I found, where that lever is. And the science directed us to the first 5 years. That this is where the foundation is made.
Wow, I love that so much. It's like, yeah, I'm not busy enough. Let me solve a much harder problem. It's like, oh, I really need something to do. No, I love it so much. I think, the fact that you come from an engineering background and you clearly have the foundation in customer experience strategy and then bringing that into family, it's certainly where I think, I don't know, it just feels like a very pressing and urgent problem to solve. Um, I'd love to hear more because I know that it's really started from your education. Let's talk about your education. Like, what do you think your education exposed about, why you're doing this work?
Can you repeat that question?
But I was just saying, what I know your old business started from your experience in education. I want to hear more
Yeah.
about what was it about your education that made you feel like this is important.
Okay. All right. So my parents sent me to the best school in my small town in India, and but there somehow the sense of self that the whole system developed inside me was not very high, right? Especially academics, like extracurriculars and sports, I still had some sense of self-esteem around that. But academics, when it came to that, it was horrible. And not that I couldn't do it, I didn't want to do it. It was just not something I cared about. You didn't make it challenging enough, engaging enough. And who is going to look at that system and solve it for the future generations? So that is where the whole idea came in, that what about changing the experience that students have with education? And that is how it started.
Yeah, that is interesting, isn't it? I think it's only when I became a parent myself that I was able to kind of, I suppose, became a bit worried about the education system because I realized that all the things I needed as an adult was 80% of it was not learnt in school. And even, behavior was one part of it, like that whole idea about how we learn, but not even that. You think about things like finances, confidence, so many things that we need to be even a well-rounded adult. It's not in the school system, and I think that's how I look at my children now. I just realize that school is just one part of it. And I think it's really made me think about what do I need to help them to develop so that they can have a good life. And
Yeah,
a good life could be anything. A good life is happy life, a balanced life, a confident life. But yeah, it's
yeah,
really fascinating how it takes us going on that journey of becoming adults and then look back and realize that it's just a system, just there's just so much more that could be tweaked in that, isn't it? So it's interesting how you're now looking at it from a perspective of what we can do as parents.
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
when you talked about schools, no,
Mhm.
school is where children show intelligence,
Mm.
but they develop the capacity of that intelligence much earlier in the first 5 years.
Right.
Okay, so we as parents put in so much investment in getting them the best schools, the best tuitions, the best extracurricular activities. But the period where it is the most formative, right? That period we treat very lightly, the first 5 years, right? So that's where when you talk about no that as a parent you feel that there's so much more to development than just academic knowledge or going to school. You're absolutely right, and it starts as soon as they come and become a part of your life.
Mm. Okay. So let's look at that then. If it's now like, okay, this is the conversation, because I think we mentioned this yesterday briefly. The conversation um, needs to change because I think at the moment there's a lot of kind of shame and guilt on parents about if your child is not with you between ages 0 to 3, you're failing them. Parents are too busy; they're sending their kids to like nannies and nurseries. That's it's not helpful, and I think that structural sort of setup is impossible for families. And I think what you're doing here is that you're putting the power back into parents' hands to say, look, it's not about the guilt, it's not about shaming. It's actually like, what can you do within your own house? And I think that's what parents need. It's not criticism of their choices and the structure that is so set against them. It's actually the tools for the moments that they have with their children whilst they're
Yeah.
young. Yeah.
So this particular topic that you just talked about, working parents, the guilt of not being able to spend the time. So research is very rich here. Research says that the child does not need to be full time with the parent itself. What
Oh,
really matters is that the support system that you use, if you use a nanny or you use the support system of grandparents or other caregivers, they need to be warm, attuned, emotionally responsive to the child.
right.
Living with your parents, but parents are stressed, or living with a nanny or in a daycare where you're cared for, daycare is way better than living with parents in a. So it's not like you need parents all the time, and it's very important that when you actually come back and meet the child, you have repair rituals. You have a ritual where you come together. I heard a parent had a ritual of any time the father came back from office, the father will put a drum in his neck and start banging it, and the child will dance, and that's a ritual they had. So when they meet, the emotionally they are so enriched in that moment that they feel that separation is not permanent. So I think having an understanding of what thought leaders in the field and experts in the field actually say, that can give us a much more a confident outlook towards the same problem.
Mm. I like that. So it's like it's okay. Like you're not failing as a parent because structurally, there is a structural problem, right? Lack of village, isolation, financial pressure, fatigue, cognitive fatigue. But look, when you're back with your kids, there are small, simple things that you can do that
Exactly.
positively impact them. And I really love your approach because I think that's why this will be much more effective and much more kind of not jarring to parents listening. Because I think, if the solution is built around the idea that, often now two parents have to work, even to financially support children, and the child is in daycare or is it with a loving nanny or not loving grandparents or loving support, then how can we move that conversation to, okay, as a parent, what can you do differently? So let's break that down then. I like what you said about sort of like, meeting your children, meeting them with us, with kind of joy and play. Can you tell us more about that?
Um, what I would like us to pay attention to is that the moments you're a busy parent, but you're still a parent. You have the child on your mind. You are planning all the things. You're taking all the decisions. You're guiding the other caregivers, right? So so the small moments where you are present, or the small moments where other caregivers are also present. Okay, those small moments, there is a certain interpretation we have of every moment. For example, we discussed yesterday when a child is working on their mother's laptop or father's laptop, right, pretends to work. Most of the adults think it is a danger situation. They interpret it as a dangerous situation and they immediately react, right? That interpretation, if that we inform that with brain development science, your child's imagination is waking up at the age of 2 to 3 and trying to work on your laptop. They're trying to mimic you. This is a moment where imagination is thriving and just waking up, and we unknowingly shut down those moments, break those moments. So what if we were aware what are the moments that matter, how do they play in our life, in our living rooms, and we had a different interpretation which was informed by what development experts think about it, so that we our child feels more understood. And once they feel more understood, that is how the emotional environment within themselves like thrives. That drives everything.
I feel so seen by what you said there. Because I know my daughter, my 3-year-old daughter, loves my tappity tap, which is what she calls my laptop. And I'm like, get away, get away. I do panic because I'm like, she's going to break my laptop. But I know
Yeah,
what you mean. Oftentimes, she just wants to mimic what I'm doing. And I suppose
yeah.
that's probably her first introduction to work and someone working on a laptop. Um, so I think after having that conversation, I'm certainly a lot more conscious now about like when she approaches my laptop. Maybe teach her that it is something that can break, but don't panic. Like don't like scare her, push her away from it or scare her from it.
Maybe you change the environment. Maybe
Okay.
where you place your laptop, you place it at a place where it is less dangerous. Or you, if she wants to work on the laptop, I don't know, you can be around, but let her do what she's doing for 5 minutes. Just pause there,
Mm.
stand there. If something happens, you can catch. But uh, when the child is in deep state of focus, their factory here is running like crazy. You don't want to stop the process at that point of time. So never disturb a child deep in focus.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I suppose it's usually in those kind of real moments, isn't it? Let's think about another moment. Can you tell us about another one? I know that obviously there's millions of moments as as adults. Could be, I don't know, meltdown, a tantrum, a child that won't sleep,
Yeah.
a moment where you're a bit annoyed and like even repair. Can you give us another one that you think really talks about this message?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have like at Unoya, we run a WhatsApp community of parents where
Okay.
we discuss one topic weekly. Okay, every weekend we talk about one topic. That's a small community of a few parents. Um, there very recently talked about emotional regulation. Okay, and
Oh,
let's
that's
say
definitely my
your
favorite.
child, yeah, your child's toy broke down, for example. Okay,
Okay.
now what do parents just, what is the instinct that most of us have? Oh, I'm so like, the toy broke down, don't worry, we'll get a new one.
Mm.
Okay, or like we try to solve the problem instantly, right? Or get the child thinking instantly that let's try to fix it, maybe it will work. If you look at that moment from a brain science perspective, okay, the child basically has two parts of the brain. Okay, when the child was playing with the toy and trying to figure it out how it works, the child's thinking was here in the thinking part of the brain. When the toy broke, the child's thinking went to the emotional part of the brain. So at that point of time, their attention is towards the emotional part of the brain. And we as parents try to engage their thinking. So they don't feel seen for their emotions, and we are not able to get the thing that we plan to do, get them to stop crying or get them to fix the toy. Or so just knowing that when your child is emotionally upset, their attention has moved from the thinking brain to the feeling brain, right? Now parents in that community are, when their child is really upset, they go and help the child name the emotions,
Oh, wow.
help the child feel seen, hold the child with warmth, so that the child feels safe and their attention comes back to the thinking brain.
Mm.
And once they're back in the thinking brain, that is when the parent goes like, okay, now let's try to fix your toy. The
Mm.
child feels more understood because we understood the situation better, exactly what's happening. That's another example.
Wow. I suppose it's that sort of common automatic response, isn't it? To
Automatic response is the
uncomfortable,
right word.
yeah,
Yeah.
uncomfortable emotion like crying, sadness. We want to fix it quickly. Because I think a lot of us also are brought up to, we're not allowed to feel. Like, I definitely knew that. Like, when I was crying, I stopped crying. Like, very Nigerian, very like, I don't know what the word is, strict. Stop crying. Don't be angry, It's interesting. So because we're brought up like that, I suppose sometimes those emotions make us feel uncomfortable and want to soothe it for them.
Yeah, so actually, again, research here says that when a child's nervous system is dysregulated, okay, they are emotionally overwhelmed, that dysregulates the nervous system of the adult nearby also. That's why we feel so disturbed by the sound of the child's crying or fussing. And when we feel disturbed, we react. We also go from our thinking brain to our emotional brain. We react in that moment because we want to feel safe again. The only way the child is going to learn how to deal with those emotions is seeing you calmly deal with your emotions.
Okay.
They borrow your emotional regulation until they have their own. And until, like, for I think 3.5 years, until 3.5 years, they're still developing the part of their brain that helps them control, regulate. So until then, they use your calm. That's why you feel, but we react because we also feel dysregulated in that moment, right? And it becomes a place where again the child doesn't feel understood.
That's interesting, isn't it? So it sounds like or the solution really is to allow our children to feel these emotions, right? And be comfortable with big emotions. Because I think that is certainly one of, not the most important, but I think this is a big part of, this kind of emotional kind of regulation we talk about. It's allowing a child to understand that there's anger, there's sadness. I mean, I know there's loads more emotions, but like being allow them to feel that so that it
Yeah.
knows it's okay, and then we can solve the problem later.
It's very, very important for their body to learn how to do it.
Mm,
It's not their mind only, which is how they think about it is not the only parameter. They have to learn that big emotions are manageable, and this is the time that they learn it. So when you see adults who are not able to manage their feelings, a lot of time these were children who were not held when they had big feelings, right? Nobody helped them name the feeling. Nobody was calm around them so that they could learn that this is manageable.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it's definitely it's something that I got a kind of front row seat on. So it's not something I spoke about much in the podcast, but in the last 9 months, I went through quite a traumatic experience, and I I was like crying. I was crying in front of my children, and I remember like people wanting to like almost say like, "Oh, mommy's not, mommy's just got a bad tummy." And I remember I had to like push back and be like, "No, no, no, I'm sad. I'm very, very sad." And then that actually what encouraged me to then what I did was I remember I ended up going on ChatGPT. I used Claude, and I got it to create stories using my children's name around emotions. Like, I've got this hot stomping feeling in my chest. It makes me angry. And when you're angry, what do? We walk around, we stamp our feet, or count backwards. But that's now a story that I read to them most nights because in that moment I saw something. I saw how like life is full of emotions, like life is, you know I don't know, sadness, anger, there's so much that we will deal with, and I think it can impact us and how we're able to maybe our relationship with like maybe alcohol, it could be substance, how we kind of move forward from pain and anger and sadness. I think it's quite important. I realized I couldn't allow my children to have this automatic response to like hiding it. And that was one of the reasons why it became a big thing for me. So it's funny how sometimes we experience these things to learn.
This is so amazing. You just talked what you just talked about. So you felt something deeply. You
Mm.
didn't want your children to not be equipped to deal with it. So you made a tool yourself, right? And you customized it, and you are using it very actively. Now this is a sign of a reflective parent,
Mm.
not a perfect parent, a reflective parent, someone who pauses, reflects things, and that's incredible, Tiffany. I'm so happy that you used a learning and you made something so meaningful, and you've given your children a very big power. They will have less anger issues, they will have less behavior issues, because now they have a language for what insanely they feel inside themselves. This is great. It's a very good example.
No, thank you so much. But I think it's life, isn't it? I think it's life, and um, the things life gives you. And I've always been a believer that everything happens for a reason. So I'm willing to sit with something and think, what is this? Like, why am I going through this with a 3 and a 5-year-old? Like, why? I can't just let this big sad thing pass me by and not kind of process it or take something from it. And I'm so glad you just gave me that experience of watching my children and people, like I said, just trying to, I don't want to hide things. And I think the way you show up emotionally, because even I look at my children now, there are times when we're rushed and, I'm just like, I'm getting annoyed. I'm not, I will get annoyed. And I'm like, and my daughter's like, Mommy, why are you not smiling? And again, it's just, there's so many, I think children expose your emotional regulation. They really do, because that's time when you're stressed, frustrated, you want to do things quickly. So I do think it's a big part of our lives. And I want to make sure that, yes, I will make mistakes, but let me repair it. I say sorry to my children. It's just these little things, but I do think they raise me. I'm
Yeah,
raising them and they're raising me as well. Um,
absolutely.
yeah. So thanks for sharing that. Another thing I was thinking about is temperament, because I know we just really talked about that. I know you mentioned like because I was talking about how different my children are, and I think it's something a lot of people can relate to. So I have a son who is really like low energy, quite calm. You know. My daughter is the opposite, right? She's super excitable, wants to do everything herself. And let's talk about that. It's not, you said how every child has a temperament, it's not behavioral things, like a wiring. I'd love to hear the parameters and how you look at it.
Okay, all right. So I told you there are nine parameters, okay, on which scientists define temperament, and every child is born with a particular combination. Maybe like these nine elements are like distractibility,
Okay.
activity level, your sensitivity to new people, new situations, okay, risk taking appetite, right? There are 9 parameters, on which scientists rate, and it's possible that your elder child is, is or for combination where he's less, he looks like he's less active than your younger child, right? So your younger child needs to spend a lot of energy physically, right? But your older child might do a lot of thinking with the energy that he sits with. So it's not like one temperament is good and other is bad. The more important factor that we were also talking about yesterday is goodness of wit. You can Google about it and read more about it. Goodness of it is where like two different children can experience the same home in a very different way. Yeah. So you have to make sure that the way you're designing your home in small moments is attuning to the temperament of each of your child. You're able to, maybe you push one child on one thing and you choose not to push the other child on that thing, because you now understand that his natural instinct is different. Okay, so children are born with a combination, but over time, while they're developing the regulation part of their brain, over time in the first 3 to 4 years, they are developing ways of overriding that instinct also. So if your child is not comfortable in new people setting or new situations, that is also the time when they can learn to adapt and override that instinct.
Right. That is it's funny because I always think this is the best part about parenting that humbles everyone. It's like one size fits all parenting just doesn't work, you know. Like when I had my son, I thought, oh, he's so calm. He's just like me and my husband. We're just such calm people. Look at us, calm, lovely, calm family. And my daughter came along and I was like, I love that. It's like she's just a whirlwind. It's shocking. She wakes up like
Yeah.
it's really interesting, but I think it says a lot. You know, I often think about that in terms of like leadership, how like, you know, you have to understand that people are motivated differently, people behave differently, and you have to put different motivators in place to get people to maybe do the right thing or do what you need them to do. But I think it's really blown that for me, and um so what I'm thinking of is if when I think about my son and how to help him to be a capable young man, even in the mornings I realize I have to slow things down for him. He's not the sort of child that will do things quickly, but he wants to do them well. I mean, when he washes his hands, it takes him like 2 minutes. It's shocking.
Oh,
It will wash every. No, seriously, I'm like, what? It should be here when COVID was happening. This child could have been a poster. It could have been a poster child for COVID. Like, so this is how you wash your hands. Anyway, when he
where did he
listen,
pick up that? Where did he pick that up from?
he has a sense of doing things right. He's like that. Like he's always been like that. When he was a
Orderly.
child, yeah, he's very orderly. If a speck of water gets on his top, oh, mommy, take it off. Take it off. Yeah, yeah. It's always so. When his granddad, I think he's trying to mention, oh, this is how you wash your hands. Since then, corners, corners. So when he's washing his hands, I'm standing behind him, going, because and I realize it's just the way he is. Like even when he learns things, when he puts on his clothes. So in the morning, I have to give him more time, and I realize this is how we frustrate our children, right? Because we rush them when that's not how his energy. But I look at him and I realize this is someone who could go into an organization and make sure things are in order. I think that's just this is
That's a very good thing. Now, you're just pausing more for your child and
yes.
bring taking that the rhythm a little, lower for that child. The child felt more understood.
Oh, no, I have to. Honestly, I realize if I don't do that, I will frustrate him and I will push him away or make him feel like he's lazy and not capable. And I realize how sometimes, this is what we have to give our children that maybe school won't give them. So if I give him that space, if I give him that grace, then hopefully when he
Yeah.
goes to school and people label him, it wouldn't make as much difference because he just knows that I've already told him, you're just careful, you pay attention to detail. And I think that's what's happening here with my son because, like I said, that's just how he is. He won't rip a book or he just won't go around creating chaos. But he's incredible. He's very empathetic. He notices
Wow.
my emotions. The other day said, mommy, you're very sad. He will go to the fridge and try to open peas and give it to me. So I've realized that as a mother, my gift to him is my time as I see him and giving him that feedback. I'm not saying he's going to be perfect. I'm not going to tell him you're perfect, but I want to tell him that you do this well, and maybe you need time. But my daughter, the other hand, is just a ball of energy. She's gonna have a lot of friends. She's gonna go on a stage and perform, and has no shyness. And I just think, as parents, I often think as mothers, that's the gift we have for our children. We see them, and I wish that someone had seen me when I was younger, because I said, I didn't
Yeah.
grow up with my mom. So I feel like people, because someone didn't see me for so long, it meant I had to figure a lot of things out for myself, and it took me maybe a longer time to arrive at like where I am, because now I see myself, and it's interesting,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's such a subtle thing that you're talking about, but it's so, foundational is the right word. Yeah.
Mm,
And I think somehow this generation of parents, the generation that we're coming from, this generation of parents are asking the right kind of questions also.
yeah.
I think that change I see very consistently, right? And across classes, I economic classes, I see that difference. This generation of parents, maybe because we have access to internet or we have access to very powerful, tools. That's why we feel more confident at being able to ask those questions. And social media also, I think that there is a good wave of change that has happened in the kind of questions we ask as parents, I
Mm.
think.
So Halle, let me just say something. Are you psychic or something? Because every time you say something, you say a word that links to like my next point here. I'm not even kidding. No, I'm not kidding. Like when we were talking before, the next stage was small moments, and you said small moments, and I was like, okay. And then just now you said generational, and I was like, what? That's my next theme. That is insane. Yeah, it's actually crazy. But no, you're right, and I think this is something I spoke about, like with my dad. How my dad, like, and for a lot of that kind of pre us, generation, education was everything, especially the migrants who came to another country. They came to get an opportunity. For them, they felt like education will get them into the room, so they said to the children, "Go and be as educated as
Yeah,
possible." But I think, luckily, I don't blame my dad. I just take that foundation as he's doing the best that he had. But we now have a better way. And I think you're right. It's like that access to, like, I don't know, more reflective. We have more tools. Um, we have books, podcasts. I mean, the parenting books. I mean, imagine how many parenting books are out there. And even you said when you were researching on this topic, just how much you were able to read about like the brain and brain development. Like, there's just so much.
yeah. I went into fundamental depth of understanding,
Mm,
how brain development actually happens,
yeah.
right? The person that we see and the way a person experiences his life, and feels, and be able to do things comes from this one particular organ. Okay. And in the first 5 years, this organ is actually connecting, is making major highways in the brain that will be used for the rest of their life. So those highways are getting made in the first 5 years.
Right.
Okay, your information processing will always be using those highways, and that is why these first 5 years are where what we call foundational from a brain development perspective,
Mm,
right? So that's, I think, that way of looking at things, understanding that, the child is developing at a certain pace. For example, yesterday we were discussing, right?
yeah.
A child is painting something. A parent usually has a tendency of going and guessing. Oh, you're drawing a house. Oh, that's a sun, right? Because we instantly get into the adult and interpretation mode. But that is the moment where if we ask an open-ended question to the child in that moment, okay, can you tell me about your picture? What are you drawing? Right? That is when they would want to express what they actually are thinking, and also It's very important to pause there. Parents go like, "Oh, is this a ship? Oh, this is a ship. You should draw a fish next to it." We go blah 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 blah. The pause where we ask the question and we pause for them to connect thinking, meaning, and speech. That point of that pause is the language workout.
Yeah.
So when we ask child a question, wait for even 20 seconds for them to connect everything because the processing is slow. We assume them to have speech at our level already, but they're still connecting everything inside their head. They're forming a meaning. So a parent in our community started doing that, pausing for their child, and now their child expresses much more.
I
So
love
that's the
that.
kind of difference that the same small moments, and like if you change the interpretation of what is happening in the moment, we observe differently, we act differently.
So it says that then that obviously your message is perfect for audience and parents of now who are obviously busy because we realize that the reality is that you've got a job, you've got your own financial pressures to worry
Absolutely.
about, your own mental health, sometimes your own the child in you as well. Like we never talk about how it's a child in you that needs to be parented, that you're trying to parent as your parent. So I love that you're not talking about like quantity, you're talking about quality and just
Absolutely.
small moments. Because I think again, that's I come back to that. This message needs to be compassionate because I'm just sick of the internet telling parents that they're ruining their children's lives by leaving them or going to work or having careers. And I think we need to
Absolutely.
realize that yes, because pre you know I think about like the generation of me, like my dad. I mean, we were kind of well, not so much my culture because I think Nigerian culture is quite helicopter parenting, but traditional, let's say English culture. Um, they kind of my husband always says how they were left to it. Like these parents would just they would just go to the park or something for hours and hours and on, and they ended up okay. So I think there is that sort of pressure as well, where now we're much more helicopter parenting, watching everything because we're so scared because we're
Yeah.
overly informed. There's a lot of
Yeah.
podcasts out there, but back then you just left the kids to go to the park and ride a bike all day till it was until they were hungry.
Yeah, absolutely. Earlier, there was a village, right? It was a safe setting. I also grew up, like in my early childhood, I would say, I grew up in a setting like the whole neighborhood was village. So my parents were never worried where I am. They never had to oversee me because they
Okay.
knew that I would be safe. I think that is one very important element for parents.
Yeah.
Safety trumps everything, in our heads.
And I think it's that balance, isn't it? It's that balance of look, like there's a lot of awareness, there's a lot of information, and it can be overwhelming, but maybe don't like let it get to you. Just think about small changes because I think it's what it's about, isn't it? It's about the little things, how you can implement this into your lifestyle and not just listen to this and feel bad, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Absolutely. In fact, like if you get another to-do list in your life, like if parents
Mm,
feel even more overwhelmed because it's not like they don't have enough things to do. They're
true.
extremely busy, right? So that's why the way I've designed the whole experience is in a way that the same moments that are already happening in your life,
Mm.
we change the interpretation at that moment level. We've designed it thoughtfully so that it doesn't feel more overwhelming, that I have to become a better person to do this and I have to become more organized. No big goals, same moments, just a different.
And I think that's why I really appreciate, and I think your system is unique and would be much more effective because it's what do you call it? A high
High
touch,
touch.
small like cohorts, isn't it?
Okay, okay. So the way I've designed it is right now we're going to do very few people, okay, but we're going to do those discussions very, very deeply. So I've designed a very high touch experience where 4 to 5 families come together on a Zoom call and we go through a conversation. So my first program that I am making is called Roots of Creativity. It's a flagship program. Roots of Creativity helps parents make sure and put in the kind of support that their children need to grow up to be creative thinkers,
Okay.
original thinkers, independent thinkers. right? Being able to connect different ideas and figure things out. So that gets wired in the brain machinery, brain wiring in the first 5 years. The first program we're making is helping them understand that, because in the world after, when our children are going to get into the workforce, AI would be doing everything obvious,
Mm.
right? They'll get into workforce around 2045, 2050. So the AI will be doing everything that is basic. So the elements that, and the core mechanism for the creativity or the problem solving or the good sense of self that they need at that point of time is going to get wired right now. That's why it's extremely important. So in Roots of Creativity, for 8 weeks, 1 hour per week, 4 to 5 families come together. We have a discussion. It's an open-ended discussion, but it's organized, and that's it. That we do for 8 weeks, and you leave with a better understanding of what matters to help your child develop creative thinking.
Mm. Wow.
That's
So
how
tell
we
us,
organize.
yeah. So tell us things like, can you share some maybe practical everyday tips for us with us? Because I think we spoke about a couple of them, which is like I can't quite remember now. Was it like in the mornings or like when they're playing, play with them? You know, things like that. Yeah. Can you share more kind of like everyday things we can do?
Um, for example, I'll tell you the period of, like, I'll just tell you one for infants, for example, okay? The period of 6 months to 12 months is where their auditory circuits are getting developed,
Okay.
okay? Introduction of music in that period is highly beneficial because the brain understands rhythm,
Mm.
okay, and rhythms help in pattern recognition neural networks. So it's basically your child learning, listening to music in 6 months to 12 months period. Specifically, music is good always, but 6 months to 12 months is training their brain to do better pattern recognition, which helps later in school, later in your work life. This is like a one simple example which is very age specific, right? Another example I'll give you, uh, household chores. When a child is trying to tie their shoes, is trying to button their shirt, open their shirt, is, yeah, right? These moments are, we think it is futile, it doesn't, it's not significant, but to open that button of the shirt, the child is connecting six different parts of their brain, getting them running very fast and very aggressively, and in the process strengthening their brain at problem solving, at focus, at making things happen. We see that button opening moment as nothing, but it has great developmental significance. What if we did not rush in to do it for them? And yesterday we were talking about why we revert to ways which are not developmentally appropriate a lot of times. Because, again, three reasons we talked about, right? Why parents, when a child is struggling to put on a button shirt, why do parents go and do it for them? Parents are worried it will take a lot of time. Parents are worried they're going to do it wrong,
Yeah.
right? And a lot of times they grew up in families where children were not expected to work.
Mm.
So buttoning a shirt was never a child's job. So they, that normalized for them, and that is what they know and think is normal. So this is not a bad parent. This is a normal, loving parent where this is happening. Because that we are not able to, the way we are interpreting a certain situation is going back to our sense of urgency, or maybe the upbringing we came from, or our sense of control.
Yes. Oh my goodness. This is it. I oh, I'm feel so seeing that bottom opening moment. That's insane to think. Now that I look at my son, I mean, he has been doing it. It takes him, quite a bit. But now that I think about, what did you say? Was it six parts of his brain that's buttoning that?
Yeah, yeah.
insane. It actually, knowing that now makes me think I need to give him more time because I'm always like, I want to do it myself.
Yeah, and it is just a pause of 5 to 10 seconds, or
Yeah.
maybe a minute. Maybe you can go do something else.
Oh, this is
Exactly.
what, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that. Walk away because this is you know what you're so, this that right there is the best frame I think. Walk away because when we're in looking at like when he's washing his hands, I can't. I've decided like just don't be in the bathroom because my brain is like nobody needs to spend 30 minutes washing their hands, but he's doing it properly. And I find out when I'm not there, at least it's been done. And it's that control, isn't it? It's so interesting you say that. It's walk away and go and do something else. Because otherwise your brain thinking,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
it's taking you this long.
I'll tell you, actually, so there are good parts about our generation, and then there are challenges also. I've like we have more control issues because we're so stressed, and there are 100 things to be done. Okay, and and we do not think that a moment of buttoning the shirt is significant. We think it is the least significant part of the
Done.
day.
We think as long as it's done, that's the most
Yeah,
important. As long as it's
exactly, exactly,
presentable, who cares who does it?
exactly, exactly.
Wow. 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 That is, yeah, it's really true that control, that need to make everything effective. You want to be effective, you want to be productive with time. It really is a scary thing. I think, you know what, this is one of the reasons why I'm so glad that I signed my son up for Scouts. I think I was telling you yesterday, we signed up for Scouts, and Scouts is like, I don't know if you have a similar thing, but it's basically this thing where children of certain group join this national. It's like a national country, like groups of children that will get to do different experiences. So, for example, my son gets to go to camping because of Scouts, which is to me a good thing for a child. That my children are very. I think because they have so much love from like the grandparents. I feel like they are mollycoddled by the grandparents. Like their grandparents will like open their food, they will pack it, they would like feed it to them. They love changing their clothes for them, even though they can do it now. The grandparents love dressing them. They love doing the socks, which sometimes I let them do because I think it's a grandparent. Then you want to hold on a bit more, but I joined Scouts because it gives my son the perfect amount of chaos and
Very,
uncertainty.
very
So
well
when
said.
we go to camping, we sit on the field. They give them the sandwiches. Nobody opens it. They don't cut the apple. They don't peel it. They just give it to them. They have to like feed themselves. They have to carry the food to the table. My son did an overnight camp that I was at. They sleep in a tent, like a bag by themselves, like a sleeping bag by themselves with other children. I mean, to see my son be in an environment where nothing is optimized, nothing is curated, it's wonderful for him. And I think I'm so glad I did that because it gives him the right challenges for his age.
That is an incredible thing. This sounds very interesting. But the idea would be to create that kind of an environment at home also.
Right, okay.
So, like household chores and self care chores are a gold mine of brain development. A gold mine, right? Maria Montessori says that a child, if they believe they can do something, never do it for them.
Wow. Wow.
So what she suggests is develop the environment such that they can do everything by themselves. Maybe if their clothes are kept lower, they will be able to change. Maybe the laundry bag is lower, they'll be able to put their clothes in it.
Okay.
And it's not about forcing our children to do these things. It's about making the system and the environment so conducive that
That
children are
is,
able.
yeah. Sorry, continue.
So the environment, the timing, the rhythm of our day, that can be changed a little bit so that our children are more independent, in trying new things or figuring out things. And they are very, very critical in terms of brain development too, like I just told you. These moments, anything, if your child is planning to plant your water the plants at your home, right? That carrying the water thing to that plant, maintaining a flow of water, making sure it doesn't get overflow, making sure it stays within the plant itself, making sure the water is enough for all of the plants. All of these things are getting their brains to work and exactly develop the wiring that they will use for focus problem solving later. That interpretation has to. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I love this because I think then it brings me to a section of this conversation that is how we can incorporate these opportunities into our life. And I think one of that, the way to do it is, like you said, maybe leave the room or something, because I think that's an interesting,
Uh,
I think that may be a solution. Like you just giving them that bit more
I I
space.
meant I meant leave the room for the situations where
Of
you
course,
are internally feeling a sense of urgency. When your
yeah.
child is washing their hands and you are feeling a sense of urgency and you might stop them, not always leave the room. I
Oh,
think
no, of course.
a lot of times it's extremely important that your children feel your calm presence nearby, not a demanding presence, but
Yeah,
at least a calm presence nearby. When you are feeling a sense of urgency, and so Montessori, good Montessori schools do this very well.
yeah,
The language they use in the home is such that the child feels motivated to work. So you
okay.
can tell your son, can you help me with maybe watering the plants today? They will feel like they're contributing because children are nature did it such in such a way that children are born with a feeling of community and helping each other and doing things together for the family.
Yeah, no, it's true. I see that my kids want to help so much now that I think I'm the one old I'm helping. I'm the one
Ex-
that's like, yeah,
exactly. So
yeah. I'm
because
like,
yeah, nature actually knew that these moments are where the child's brain will be developed, right?
yeah,
Different faculties of the brain, and that is why their drive to do it is so much more. There's also a beginning of agency. Your child, younger one is 3, right? The concept of
yeah.
me, I would just, and there's a sense of pride when you're able to do that. I think.
This
So
is
one
true,
more thing I'd like to add here.
of
It's
course.
not about them being able to successfully button their shirt. The brain doesn't develop at the moment of success. It develops at the moment of trying.
Okay.
There's a subtle difference. We always think if the child is not able to successfully do it, the development did not happen. No. When the child was trying to figure it out, in the process of trying to figure it out, the wiring was happening because the brain was trying to work and figure it out. That's when connections get made.
Wow. This is honestly, I mean, I feel like I rarely do okay just because I don't know why, but I think I always say this like, maybe because of all the crap I've experienced in my life. I've been through so much chaos, sadness. I mean, I just feel like life has given me so much. And I think that's why I'm quite a reflective person. I'm very fortunate for it, even though I didn't want it. But life is like, yeah, here's the chaos, here's trauma, here's this. So I think because I've seen so much life, it has made me a very reflective mother. And I actually think it makes me a very good mother for my children because I am the sort of person, I'm very intentional. But that doesn't come from a place of like, it just comes from so much I've been through life, like losing my mom. It makes me much more like reflective. And I think that's why I've been able to incorporate so much into like, my children and their routines because I see this as an opportunity. Like I may not be here tomorrow. I don't know. So, but I definitely I love what you said, and I think, like I said, I just love your approach, and I think for mothers who are busy, who are chasing careers, who are have so much more of themselves to give beyond just motherhood. Not actually not just motherhood, motherhood. I think this is such a nice frame, and I think there's so much here that people can take. But before we close, because I know we're like 54 minutes in, and I know everyone's like, "I'm someone's mom. I ain't got time for a 2 hour podcast." All right. I think I definitely want to talk about something you shared on LinkedIn that really impacted me. You spoke about your mom, and I think I love a full circle conversation. um, you spoke about your mom, who a woman who um, managed her home on a single salary with extraordinary wisdom. She was selling handmade diaries on Amazon in the 50s. She joined the Rotary Club to become chief secretary in her first year. She's learned yoga, meditation, Reiki. She's an avid user of ChatGPT. She's also someone who stops something happening to you in public, and it's because it wasn't about just the discomfort making a scene. She wanted her daughter to, she wanted to protect her daughter. That was much more important to her.
Yeah.
And I want to hear more about your mom because I think that's clearly, someone who inspires you.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So my mother is like very ambitious woman. She just doesn't settle, and an extreme perfectionist, and very dedicated. And she will take up battles that are way beyond her capacity, and then deliver. Very thoughtful, and she's
Yeah,
always maintained, I think, a tonality of being approachable and being a friend. She's had her challenges also, but I think she kept that environment very, that sort of an expectation alignment, or maybe the support, the challenges, everything. I think she did that very beautifully. My father, on the other hand, is like a calm, very like loving, warm person who's just there behind your back. He's not challenging you or demanding you, but he's that pillar who stands behind you, is like, just go do what you want to. You feel that support. So that way, I think I've been very lucky. My parents have the brought up me in an environment which was so much full of love and high energy and taking small initiatives and caring. I think learning to care about something, I learned from them, and a lot from my mother too in this matter. She just pick up things and make sure nothing goes wrong.
yeah,
that
but I think
that
it's
really changed.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's beautiful because
That-
I think especially for us mothers who are in the trenches and think our ambition will ruin our children, perhaps it's a much more wholesome narrative here that we can learn from
yeah.
how. Yeah, because we're scared. We're like, oh my
Just
gosh,
that.
my children are going to hate me. They're going to, but perhaps there's more to it. Perhaps there's a story around what we're modeling to our children through our ambition that is good for them.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, it's very children pick up things in very subtle moments
Yeah, yeah,
where the parents stood for themselves and something they believed in, and they managed, the difficult situations well. And when they lived their ambitions, I think that is when children are picking up those details and like imbibing them in themselves. So I think, like exactly what you said, that thinking that mothers have to let go of their ambition, is it doesn't sound, because then the child wouldn't get the whole person, right? A part of you is dead. It doesn't have to be like that. You can figure things out and make things work, and with a good warm support system for your child, you can, I think, you
yeah.
should and you must follow your dreams.
I think so because I often, I mean, to kind of wrap around, I often think about what I am outside of being a mum that will benefit my children. As they get now, they need me to deliver snacks, to maybe cuddle them when they're sad. They need me to pick them up from school and like chase them around and play like silly games. But one day they will need me to console them if they're having a bad relationship. They would need me to hold their feelings and not break down, even though they're breaking down. They may end up in a bad relationship. They may have a bad career pivot. Like there's just so much more that they will need from me, and it's all been built. A lot of that's built in my career. I've built a lot of that in my resilience building. In the resilience building my ambition, the resilience of having a career while juggling children, the resilience of my own relationships and how I manage them. Those are
Yeah,
things that I can help my children with because of the person that I am outside of just being their mom. So it's like it's
yeah,
how the what I'm doing now would benefit them, and that's
yeah.
an important way for me to look at it.
Absolutely. In fact, later when they are going to have troubles,
Mm.
1 out of 10 times they're going to come to you. 9 out of 10 times they will be relying on themselves. When they rely on themselves, they will be using the nervous system that you help them train today. So how, when you are there to cuddle your child, when you are there and being there with them in their emotional distress, when you are attuned to them in the first 5 years, it gives them internal strength to deal with life later. And also, I think that connection that you're trying to build and work so actively on, Tiffany, that is something I should definitely, talk about. That you've made that a priority. That's an incredible thing.
Thank you. I don't think I have a choice. No, I was I just can't
You
on.
feel responsible for it, and you figured out a way. I'm so
Thank
happy you did.
No, thank you. I can't unsee what I've seen in life that, makes me this way. Yeah, I just can't I can't get away from certain facts. But no, thank you so much, Suhali. I think the whole point of everything we've talked about today is like how the future of our children are not just shaped by the big decisions. They're a thousand of the small ones. And I think that's really what I'm taking from this. So to wrap up, tell us more about your company, what you're doing, where people can find you, and just all that
Yeah,
lovely stuff.
absolutely. Absolutely. Our company is called Eunoia. It's a Greek word. It means a well mind and beautiful thinking. Eunoia. Okay. You can find us on website. I can link the website below, and I will also link, a space where you can be parents who watch this becoming a part of the group, they can join our early circle. So I will give you a link for that too. Again, takes you to the website. I would be very happy if parents who are thinking about this actively reach out and try to become part of the community, because we're looking exactly for people who are pausing, reflecting, want to do a little bit differently.
Love that so much. So, Hali, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on Mambition. Thanks, guys, for listening. I think we just about hit that 1 hour mark, so don't worry, we're not going to record a day, a full day, a full day podcast, even though sometimes I'm tempted. Joking. Guys, thank you so much. Don't forget to like, subscribe, come and meet us on LinkedIn, tell us what you think, ask questions, share this with someone else who might be interested. And yeah, thank you so much for joining us today. I will see you on the next one. Bye,
Okay,
everybody.
thank you. Bye.
I'm just going to stop it here a second.